We're continuing to cover the fallout of the deadly shooting in Burnsville. My Daybreak co-anchor Ryan Genty is joining me now with how the incident is highlighting the challenges law enforcement officers are facing these days.
Annalise, I spoke with the Austin Police Department and the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office about navigating those obstacles as departments grapple with recent line-of-duty deaths.
I need that ambulance to 33rd Avenue, and I need 2 additional ambulances.
It's a scene that's become all too familiar. 2 police officers, along with a firefighter paramedic, gunned down in the line of duty. And while it happened in the Twin Cities suburb of Burnsville, law enforcement all across the state and the nation are feeling the impact.
Law enforcement is one of those unique professions, I feel, that we have a family bond. We may not know each other personally, but we feel personally, the sadness, the grievance that everyone's going through.
In this case, again, one of our officers knew personally one of the officers that was killed, so it absolutely has an impact.
These are 3 of the 9 line-of-duty deaths that have happened between Minnesota, Iowa, North Dakota, and Wisconsin in the last year. You may recall Chetek police officer Emily Breidenbach and Cameron police officer Hunter Scheel were shot and killed during a traffic stop in northwest Wisconsin last April. That same month, Pope County Sheriff's Deputy Joshua Owen died after being shot on his birthday while responding to a domestic assault in western Minnesota. 1 month later, St. Croix County Sheriff's Deputy Katie Lysing was shot and killed responding to a DUI call in western Wisconsin. Then in July, Fargo police officer Jake Wallen lost his life after being shot responding to a traffic stop in North Dakota. And in September, Algona police officer Kevin Cram was shot and killed attempting to arrest a suspect with an outstanding warrant. Most recently, Burnsville police officers Paul Elmstrand and Matthew Ruge were gunned down responding to a domestic call earlier this month. Burnsville firefighter, paramedic, and Rochester native Adam Finseth was also killed in the shooting while rendering aid in what is believed to be the first firefighter-paramedic death of its kind in Minnesota. I pulled data on line-of-duty deaths in Minnesota over the last decade. 8 of those 10 years had under 2 deaths. That means this year is already one of the deadlier years with 3 deaths.
It's tragic when you hear it anywhere in the nation, and when you hear it in your own state, it seems like especially tragic. And when you hear it under the circumstances that it kind of has been unfolding to us, it's that much more tragic.
Olmsted County Sheriff's Department Captain Tim Parkin says law enforcement always has to prepare for any possible outcome when responding to calls.
We're kind of trained in our profession that you go to protect and to serve, however that means. You could be going into the home of somebody that's having the biggest crisis of their life, and you're expected to deal with that traumatic event, however it unfolds.
He and Austin Police Chief David McKeegan say while the goal is to keep everyone safe, sometimes it's just not possible.
Most of the time that they're doing an outstanding job of balancing all those things, but because there's elements you will not be able to control, you may have some outcomes that weren't planned for. You may have to use force.
In those moments, they are asking for the public to understand that they too are human.
There can be times that officers make mistakes, and we need to be held accountable just like anybody else, but at the same time understand that we try and we do our best. And just please have the understanding that when there's tragic incidents like what just recently happened, that law enforcement's hurting too.
They are also quick to point out the positive things law enforcement officers do that are not always recognized.
I'll hear on the radio again them going to a very challenging call. My heart rate goes up because I know the things that could go wrong and what those mean, and they'll solve it. And life will move on, and no one will know it.
Sometimes what's on the news is when an officer does something wrong, but what's not always on there is all the times the officers do something right.
And with the struggle to hire and retain police officers right now, they hope those considering wearing the badge and those currently wearing it know they are valued.
This is still a very noble profession, and it's a profession that gives you purpose. You can go home at the end of the day knowing that you helped somebody out, and I think there's no greater feeling than that you were able to do good in the community that you live in.
The work that they do, those men and women that wear the uniform and go out and handle those calls for service, it's invaluable.
And in the midst of the difficult hours, dangerous tasks, and sometimes devastating outcomes, they say the smallest of gestures can have a large impact.
And it does seem like, unfortunately, when tragic events such as this happen, you see people show up all the time with random acts of kindness that shows their support. And something as little as saying thank you to an officer walking by goes a long ways.
To stand by the law enforcement officers who serve and protect us every day.